Welcome back to the Factor Uncensored. An update from Capitol Hill. The House has passed a defense bill that automatically register men who are between the ages of 18 to 26 for the military draft. This is part of the annual National Defense Authorization Act. As of now, the selective service is already mandatory for men between 18 and 24 years old. There's no military draft in place right now, but Congress and the president can reinstate the draft and force men to serve in the event of a national emergency or war.
Welcome back to the Truth Seeking Network. So you see in the beginning of this video, basically we're going to talk about what's going on today um, with these wars and with Joe Biden and this and their administration. So I think it was like 5-6 months ago. They came up. Basically, it was all over social media about the draft, and that now they're going to basically have young men and women, I think, also to register for the selective service or and they were basically talking about a draft. Now, yes, so everybody, we all had to do that when we turned 18. Uh, uh, you know, when you got a driver's license, for instance, you had to register for the selective service, which is also they can draft you if there was a case of a war. You could be drafted into the military if that show took place. Me, I went into the military on my own. I volunteered. I went on my own. But at the same token, and then this video goes on to say that it was basically a lot of misinformation that people were being drafted into the military. So, and people on social media a lot of people were doing TikToks at the time. But however, and they was wondering why that the recruiting numbers are low for young people wanting to go to the military or serve in the military. And then I'm saying for myself, I wouldn't blame them at all. I definitely wouldn't want my kids to be serving in the military, to be drafted for a war. And the reason why I'm saying this, are we cowards? No. But to defend the homeland, the mainland that is the United States where we live, yes, I would fight to defend this homeland, my homeland, which is the Americas, which is where we're from. However, a lot of the young people do not want to go because these wars are bureaucrats wars. These are people, these governments are creating these and starting these wars. And so therefore, I mean, for instance, our nation, we're in other countries where we shouldn't be. We're in places where we shouldn't be. So no wonder the young people do not want to fight a war. You in Ukraine, you in Israel, you're all over the place. And a lot of these conflicts, basically we're in stuff that we have nothing to do with. But our leaders, the government, they go out and tell people, oh yes, we defend them, we defend these people. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. But at the end of the day, who is going to defend? Is it going to be the person who's saying it? Or is it going to be everybody else's children going to fight these wars? Now, if you want to volunteer yourself to go into the military because that's what you wanted to do, then so be it. There's nothing wrong with that. You can go. But it's not for everybody to go. And everybody, that's my opinion, everybody shouldn't be forced to go to a war, especially if our country is creating conflicts in other places. Or other people are doing other things, and we are backing other people up that we disagree with, and then you got to send your children to die in the war because some of these bureaucrats up in these governments have these issues. I say this: let Biden fight. Like for instance, if he want to go against Iran, then he go fight against the head guy in Iran. They get in the ring and they can put on some gloves and they box it out. Whoever wins. But you do it that way. Or send your own children to fight. Make sure they're on the front line. Because I'm sorry, but we raise our children because we want to see them live and grow old and have children themselves. We don't want to see them come back trying to fight for the VA to get some, some medications or get their, if they have something, limbs or something blown off, whatever like that, fighting to get aid when they get back. Because all these issues are real. And so I'm just saying, on my part, these wars, and it's right now, it's like Biden and them is actually trying to push us into a war. I mean, he literally gave missiles to Ukraine from us to attack Russia with. And I'm like, well, hold up. And then they had the nerve to put it on TV. Like, why would you broadcast all across the TV? Shouldn't this be top secret? Why would you blast all across the TV set? I mean, all the stations, United States, Biden signed a bill to give Ukraine U.S. weapons, U.S. missiles. And then they use the missiles. And then that's put on across the TV, all across the news stations. United States, Ukraine has used the missiles, and they have attacked Russia with these missiles. I mean, Trump is coming in and saying that he's going to try to make peace between the Ukraine and Israel and so forth, right? So why is Biden now sending these missiles and putting it across the air where everybody can hear it, including Russia, that we sent these missiles to Ukraine so they can use them against Russia? Of course, Russia would be upset. Of course, Russia's going to go off. Why? Because we supplied them missiles. So if you were going to supply the missiles, that should have been kept top secret. How come it was spread across the media? And it looks like they're actually trying to push us into a war. So I don't think it's coincidence that they do the so-called draft things like 6 months ago, about 6 months ago, and that was all across the news. And all of a sudden now, he's pushing. I mean, he already gave them hundreds of billions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer money. And now he's he already did send those weapons of mass destruction over there. And who knows how Russia's going to take that? So it seemed like you lost the election, but now you're trying to start a war. I mean, go figure. You get them hundreds of billions of dollars, but this is ridiculous. And that needs to stop. So I hope everybody is awake and they can see actually a lot of people do see what's really going on. And we're not being fooled by none of this.
So President Biden reversing course and lifting restrictions on Ukraine's use of U.S. provided weapons deep inside Russian territory. For the first time, Biden is giving Ukrainian forces the green light to actually strike Russia with long-range American missiles. That move coming after months of lobbying by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and with major changes on the horizon once President-elect Trump takes office. Our Patrick Reevell is in Ukraine. So Patrick, let's talk about how big of an impact this could make on the war.
Hi, Kira. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. It's certainly a significant decision by President Biden to essentially reverse his opposition to over a year of Ukrainian requests to use these long-range ATACMS missiles. But there is a caveat. We know from our reporting that for the time being, at least, the focus of this authority to start striking inside Russia is limited to the Kursk region, which is the border region, the Russian border region that Ukraine managed to take a foothold in with its own offensive back in August, and where now Russia has been trying to push Ukraine out of with a major new offensive, including with thousands of North Korean troops. And it's our understanding that the arrival of the North Korean troops was a significant factor, perhaps the crucial factor, in persuading the Biden administration to finally drop its opposition to allowing Ukraine to use these missiles. And as we understand it, from most military experts, they believe, of course, it will be useful to Ukraine. It will be helpful to them in holding on to Kursk, but it will ultimately still be limited. And what we hear from Ukrainian officials is that it is still short of what Ukraine had been hoping. We understand that there are hundreds of potential targets across the border in other areas of Russia that they would like to be able to hit, but which at the moment it seems unlikely they would be able to. The question, of course, is what is Russia going to do? There was concern, obviously, among the Biden administration that there would be some kind of retaliation over this. This is why they didn't want to do this in the first place. But what that type of retaliation will be, we don't yet know. Most experts think it will likely be more some kind of asymmetric response. Today, we've heard from the Kremlin saying that this decision pours fuel on the fire of the conflict, and that it's another spiral of escalation. We've also heard a senior Russian official say that they will be forced to respond. Ukraine previously has said that ultimately Russia is largely bluffing, and they believe that the US and the Biden administration has been too timid throughout this war. But I guess we will see how this goes, Kira.
All right, Patrick Reevell. Thank you. Someone else who's watching how it's going to go is someone who knows the region extremely well. Let's take it to former U.S. Ambassador of Ukraine, Bill Taylor now. Bill, good to see you. Let's talk about why would the Biden administration make this move now? And what does it mean for Ukraine's military capabilities?
I tell you why they did it now. They did it now because they lost their freaking elections. And now that's why they want to go do it. All the things, it's funny, how, I mean, this guy's going to basically say, oh, we should have did it before. But yeah, you did it now because you lost the election. That's why you did it. And all you're doing, you're just trying to ramp up things for war. And Russia had every right to be upset that you actually gave them missiles and gave them the okay to use these missiles to strike deep within Russia. So what do you think was going to happen? I mean, it's like they think average people do not have common sense. If you provoke an enemy, the enemy can strike back and most likely will strike back. I mean, it's this war. But the thing about it is, it looks like they're actually trying to get us into the war. They're trying to push us into a war. And to me, this is devastating because, I mean, we got a new incoming president, which is Trump. Instead of letting him come in and take over, you're not de-escalating, you're escalating. You're making it now it's more dangerous because, what if Russia did strike back? I mean, whose fault would it be? It would be our own. It'd be our own government's fault for doing what they did. And here's the problem: they don't even come to the American people no more. This government supposed to be working for the people, and I can guarantee you, the majority of the people are against what just happened. But they're going to keep doing what they want to do, and that's the problem.
Well, Kerry, it clearly increases Ukraine's military capabilities, and now's a good time to do it. They should have done it earlier, as you've reported.
Yeah, right.
But the arrival now on the battlefield of North Korean troops is another indication of the seriousness of this issue. And the Biden administration has decided to counter that. The United States is countering this move by the Russians to bring in the North Koreans. And this does give the Ukrainians the ability to fire deep into Russia to disrupt these moves.
Okay, so just because the Koreans come, what gives us the right to still use our missiles? I mean, this whole thing is like, it's crazy. The whole mess is crazy. So because the North Koreans came, now that gives us authorization to use our missiles now. U.S. missiles. And then for y'all to put it across the TV screen so that everybody, I mean, why didn't you use the missiles and it have been top secret that you use U.S. missiles? Why do you have to tell everybody you use it? Why do you have to let Russia know, hey, guess what? We sent Ukraine some missiles. And by the way, we're gonna let them use our missiles against you. Why would you do that? To me, that makes no sense. Unless you're trying to escalate us into a war.
By the Russians and the North Koreans.
So do you think we could soon see other allies giving similar permission to use long-range missiles?
I do. The French and the British have held off on giving the Ukrainians the permission to use their Scalp and their Storm Shadows, which are the equivalents of our ATACMS. And now that the Biden administration has given the green light, I would surely expect the French and the British to give the green light. And I think there's a decent chance, Kira, that the Germans will decide to provide their even longer range missiles. They call them the Taurus. And those missiles, the Taurus.
So look at that, y'all. Like I said, so I don't think that little draft thing was coincidental. Look what they trying to. It's like to me, these people are trying to start a world war. So, I mean, y'all just be mindful. Y'all see what's going on. Don't be fooled by mainstream media, but pay attention what's happening. They're trying to provoke a world war because if Russia has allies also. And if everybody started using their stuff against Russia, then of course what's going to happen? Russia's going to use it, get its allies to start doing things as well. And next thing you know, somebody's going to get into conflict, and then somebody's going to get into conflict, and next thing you know, here we got a world war, and guess what? They're going to have to initiate a draft. A draft. And I believe because they didn't get enough people with that thing in the arm, these people want depopulation. And I said this before, that's what I believe was going to happen because they didn't get enough people to take the thing in the arm. They want depopulation of this planet. The next best thing is to get your so-called children, your children, your children who are 18 to 26 years old because they're young people. And those are ages of young people, having children who are basically growing up. They're young adults and now they can have children. But if you have them going to war and then we have them killing each other, that's going to stop a whole bunch of people from now having children in the future because they'll be dead because they've been blowing each other up in some wars, these manufactured wars that these people create that we are against. So I'm glad that we do have social media. So we have a voice to speak against this stupidity. People want to live. And I'm going to tell you something. A lot of these people, just like in America now, you got a lot of these people that's here from these other countries and they're friends. Your kids, they go to school with them. They come home, they play football with them. They go to the movies with them. They have fun together. Now all of a sudden, what? We're going to hate each other because the government say that this government versus this government, don't like each other. So now they send your children against their children off to war to fight each other and kill each other. For what? For their greed, for their dominance. And then you as the parent, as a relative of these children, a lot of them won't make it. And that's just the reality of war. And when they won't, and a lot of them will go over there and won't be the same when they come back. So this is the reality of war. But these people are pushing it. And it's sad. They're pushing it amongst the people. They're pushing it, and they're doing things like sending missiles and stuff. All they're doing is escalating this more and more. It needs to stop.
Warren, it's a good day for America. It's a good day for Europe, and it's a good day for world peace. For real, this is consequential.
How are you gonna say this is a good day for world peace when you send the military, you sending weapons of you sending weapons of destruction to these countries for war, and yet Americans are struggling, are suffering at home. You're giving billions to other countries, billions to millions to illegal immigrants. You're housing them all across the United States. We had Hurricanes Helena come through Georgia to Florida. We had Hurricane Milton. We had in North Carolina. where people supposedly got $750, and those who supposedly got it, they didn't. Some of them didn't even get it; they were denied. And second, um, they got the 750, they're supposed to pay it back. But you giving hundreds and billions of dollars to Ukraine and Israel and all these other countries, talking about it helps the United States. But did you ask the American people, is that what we wanted? And how many times have you given money and aid and missiles to other nations, Ukraine and all these other places? But did you give anything to the American people, our infrastructure at home? See, that's why you lost the election, because America was hip to what you were doing. You were giving money to everybody else but us. The whole infrastructure falling apart. High inflation. We got legal immigrants everywhere murdering and raping people. But you sending money to these other nations for war. Just like Tupac said, you got money for war, but can't feed the poor. It's sad. We got tent cities all across America. People losing their jobs. But you giving money to your European nation, your friends and your allies all over the place. It's sad.
I just signed into law the national security package that was passed by the House of Representatives this weekend and by the Senate yesterday. It's going to make America safer. It's going to make the world safer. And it continues America's leadership in the world, and everyone knows it. It gives vital support to America's partners, and so they can defend themselves against threats to their sovereignty and to the lives and freedom of their citizens. And it's an investment in our own security. Because when our allies are stronger, and I want to make this point again and again, when our allies are stronger, we are stronger. It's a path to my desk. It was a difficult path. It should have been easier, and it should have gotten there sooner. But in the end, we did what America always does. We rose to the moment.
Who's America? You said what we did what America always does. Who is America? Who are you talking about? Are you talking about the American citizens that didn't even have nothing to do with this bill? Who is America? Or is it the people that's inside of that little area, 10-mile radius, which they call the United States? The corporation of the United States. Who is America? Because you didn't talk to American people. You didn't get our opinion. You just went and did it. And then you say you got it done. Because I can guarantee you, with that $95 billion, and it was been more than that, I'm sure Americans would have had a different outtake about where that money should have went and how it should have been spent.
We came together. We got it done. Now we need to move fast, and we are. I'm making sure the shipments start right away. In the next few hours, literally the few hours, we're going to begin sending in equipment to Ukraine for air defense munitions, for artillery, for rocket systems, and armored vehicles. You know, this package is literally an investment, not only in Ukraine's security, but in Europe's security.
And now, just a couple of days ago, I say about 3 days ago, on November the 19th or 18th, at the G20 summit, Biden pledges to give the World Bank $4 billion to pledge to the World Bank. Again, Mr. Biden, and whoever wrote your speech, as y'all gonna be able to clearly see that he's basically reading off a piece of paper that somebody gave him, because this is not coming out of his own brain. But who gave you $4 billion, and where did you get the money from the U.S. to give to the World Bank for the poor people around the world, on the poor countries, when we got poor people right here in America? We got people who can't even pay their rent because everything is so high. But now you even give them $4 billion, you give them more money out. So it seemed like you just did everything for everybody else but America. And you wonder why you didn't get elected. You wonder why Harris didn't get elected. because she says that everything she did, that everything you signed off on, that she signed off on too. She said she was part of everything that you did. So, Mr. Biden, what and who do you really work for? And why are you giving everybody money but the people in America? Why?
Well, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
So you see, Camilla says that all the decisions that basically that Joe Biden made, that she was part of all of the decisions. So she was part of everything that he did. So the Biden administration, everything, she was all for it. She was for everything that he did so far. She said she was part of it.
Things in the first, rather investment on a large scale. Now we need to make sure the World Bank will continue its work in the most vulnerable countries. I'm proud to announce the United States is pledging $4 billion over the next 3 years to the World Bank's International Development Association.
What about pledging $4 billion to the United States corporation? And help out some of these people in these tent cities. And help out the people in North Carolina. Help out many Americans who are barely making it, barely making ends meet, struggling just to get groceries, have to decide that they either get food and drugs, or which one they're gonna decide to get, or some of them can't get neither one. So, what about the American people? What about America itself? What about us over here in America, Joe Biden? See, that's why you lost. That's why y'all lost, because y'all didn't see fit to care about the American people. Y'all in y'all own little government world doing what y'all want to do. Y'all don't even respect the American people. You don't even see what the American people want. You just did whatever y'all wanted to do. But that's why you're not going to be in the office no more. Now you start just trying to give the rest of the money away. So you make sure by the time Trump get in there that he'll be trillions and trillions of dollars in debt, and maybe even at a war because of the stuff you're doing, because you lost the election.
Friend Ajay tells you the IDA is the first responder to the world's poorest countries.
And why are you not looking up? Why you didn't know this stuff off head? Why are you reading off a piece of paper? I mean, this is sad. You supposed to be the world leader at this UN summit in front of everybody on stage, the G20 summit, and you can't even. You should better articulate what's going on. You should have know the issues already. What you gonna give this money for? But instead, you got to look off a piece of paper. Look at you.
It's very different to increase their pledges in December. In addition, we have to mobilize private capital at scale.
Okay, nobody's paying attention to him. Everybody's looking around.
$60 billion through the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment. That partnership, the United States strongly supports Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Everyone around this table, in my view, should as well. And by the way, Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine led to the highest record food prices in all of history. In Gaza, as I've said before, Israel has a right to defend itself after the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. But how it defends itself, even as Hamas cruelty hides among civilians, matters a great deal. The United States has led the world in humanitarian aid to Gaza. And we're going to keep pushing to accelerate the ceasefire deal that ensures Israel's security, but brings hostages home and ends the suffering of the Palestinian people and children. I ask everyone here to increase the pressure on Hamas, who's currently accusing this deal. Sudan, This is my last B20 summit. We've made progress together, but I urge you to keep going. I'm sure you will, regardless of my urging or not. This group has within its power to usher in a new era of sustainable development, to go from billions to trillions in assistance to those in most in need. This all may sound lofty, but this group can lay the foundation to make that achievable. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the rest of our discussion.
Voters trust you with an immigration overhaul now?
Because it made a mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. And the fact is, I've made it very clear. Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those.
So you're going to send a pathway for 11 million, let's call them illegal immigrants. That means they committed a crime. That means they came to our country, they're criminals. That means they're illegal. You want to change the name undocumented to make them sound like, oh, we just don't have no documents on them. No, they're illegal. And you know what, Joe Biden? That's exactly what you did. Because now our country is in the worst condition ever. But we got more than 11 million. I don't know how many millions of illegal immigrants we have in this country now. And that's why, again, you lost the election, or your administration lost again, because you didn't see what was really bothering the American people. And all across this country, the American people are fed up with the illegal immigration that's been going on. And that's the key point of that is it's illegal. So when they crossed over to the United States, they committed a crime because it was illegal for them to come here. And it's sad the fact that you gave them millions and millions of U.S. taxpayer dollars. You gave them health care, you gave them EBD cards, you gave them all kind of money. You gave them more money than you gave Americans. And this is why Kamala and you both lost the elections. So in this video, I'm showing you that you started out with the draft, and I believe y'all going to use that. You're giving weapons you're giving weapons to Russia, to Ukraine to use against Russia, and then you broadcast it on the TV and all across the radio waves and social media that you did so. Instead, that should have been top secret if you even did that. It looks like y'all trying to start a world war. You're giving everybody money but the American people, which the money came from in the first place. Off of our labor and our hard work, our taxpayer dollars, you've been given to other nations and other people around the world. And it looks like you're trying to start a new war, a world war. And I just hope the American people are hip to see what's really going on. And apparently they were, because that's why everything was red instead of blue.
So-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship.
Wow.
The idea that they are being sent home by this guy and they want to do that is they've gone to a country they've never seen before. I can imagine you're 5 years old, your parents are taking you across the Rio Grande River and it's illegal. And you say, oh no, Mom, leave me here. I'm not going to go with you. They've been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them. We owe them.
We owe them what? They shouldn't be here. And those 20,000, what you call responders, whatever you call them, those could have been American people. Those jobs should have went to Americans, not illegals. And that's the biggest problem. You're hiring all these illegals, and Americans are a hard time finding jobs. And then you turn around and say, well, they're doing jobs that most people, Americans, don't want to do. And that's a bunch of baloney.
President Trump,
Kristen, he
your
had
reaction.
8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've changed
We did.
without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing except build cages to keep children in.
Vice President
Wrong.
Biden, your response.
The catch and release, you know what he's talking about there? If in fact you had a family came across and they were arrested, they in fact were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were released. And guess what? They showed up for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of America that anybody seeking asylum has to do it in another country. That's never happened before in America. That's never happened before in America. You come to the United States and you make your case that I seek asylum based on the following premise: why I deserve it under American law. They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
President Trump, your response.
So
30
important.
seconds, and then we'll move
It
on.
just shows that he has no understanding of immigration or the laws. Catch and release is a disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in, a very bad person would come in. We would take their name. We have to release them into our country. And then you say they come back. Less than 1% of the people come back. We have to send ICE out.
And you know what? Now, after 4 years of Biden, everything that Donald Trump just said is correct. I mean, you listen to this debate over 4 years ago, and you get to see the outcome. We're living the outcome right now. And it's clearly President Trump was 100% correct. Because now we have murderers, we have rapists, we have all these illegal and undocumented immigrants. A lot of them are committing crimes, right? And they're also hiring these people, putting them in jobs what Americans could do, and also giving money, free money, EBD cards. You know, they're giving them free health care. They're putting them up in hotels. Even FEMA didn't have money, ran out of money because they were taking care of the illegal immigrants. And so now America is in a sad state. And again, that's why a red wave during this last election swept across this country, because people voted on what's going on. People didn't care about some of the things that they were talking about. People didn't want men in girls' bathrooms. I'm sorry, but that is the truth. You know, people didn't want their children going to school, and they couldn't tell, they weren't allowed to tell their gender what they were. They couldn't identify as a boy or a girl when that's exactly what they were. Either you're a boy or you're a girl. But they couldn't do that. So it was like stuff that's common sense. This last administration, everything just went haywire. And so American people, they voted. They voted to bring common sense back to the White House.
And Border Patrol out to find them. We would say, come back in 2 years, 3 years. We're going to give you a court case. You did Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case. When you say they come back, they don't come back, Joe.
Yeah.
They never come back. Only the really, I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ, they might come back.
Okay,
But they're
President Trump,
very,
let's
very
give
few.
Vice President Biden a chance to respond, and then we're going to move on to the
You
next
don't know
section.
the law, Joe.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Know the law, what he's telling you is simply not true.
Well, check it out. They don't come back.
Check it out.
All right, let's move on.
But we don't have to
the
worry
next
about it because they
section.
terminated it. So we don't have to worry about
Let's
it
move
anymore.
on to the next
And you have
section.
525 kids.
I started my career in immigration enforcement in 1984 as a Border Patrol agent. I've worked for 6 presidents, up to Donald Trump. Every president I've ever worked for took some steps to secure the border because they understood you can't have strong national security if you don't have border security. But President Biden is the first president in the history of this nation that I know of who came in office and unsecured the border on purpose. And even President Obama gave me the Presidential Rank Award, highest award available. Because what was I doing at the time? I was locating and deporting people that are in the country illegally. So we went for the most secure border of my lifetime. And it's not just my opinion. I've done this for 34 years. Anybody can go to cbp.gov, look at the data. We handed this administration the most secure border in my lifetime. And within months, we went from the most secure border to historic illegal immigration, numbers you've never seen before. And it's not because it's seasonal. It's not because of climate change. It's not because of Trump. This is by design. We already heard about some of these people are coming because of economic reason or natural disasters. The bottom line is when you claim asylum, you must be escaping fear and persecution from your home government because your race, religion, political affiliation, or membership in a particular social group. That is not the fact. If you look at immigration court data over the last 10 years, you'll see that nearly 9 out of 10 people who claim asylum at the border never get relief from U.S. courts that simply don't qualify. But they're coming and staying because of Biden's promises. I wrote an op-ed 6 months before the election. I said, President Biden becomes president, we'll lose the border. Based on the promises he was making during the campaign. And he's kept those promises. Right now, we have record numbers of illegal aliens coming across the border. Catch and release is rampant. Right now, Secretary Mayorkas already said 85% of everybody coming to the border is being released in the country. They're not being detained. And why are they being detained? Because of two reasons. Number one, because he knows, like I do, that vast majority of these people will be ordered removed 5, 6, 7 years down the road, maybe 10. He also knows the Homeland Security Life Cycle Report says if you get an order removal and you're in an ICE bed, you get removed 99% of the time. But if you're not in detention, your chances of being removed are slim. If you're a family unit, it's about 6%. That's why they're releasing them. Thousands of empty ICE beds sitting there right now, already paid for by the taxpayer. They'd rather release them because they know the vast majority will lose their case and it'll be ordered removed. But if they're not in detention, they won't be removed. So this administration comes up with what they call lawful pathways, which I think are illegal, and I think they'll lose when the decision of the courts come out. The CBP One app, 95.8% are approved. Where's the case-by-case analysis that is supposed to be done for people for a parole? It's not being done. It's a shell game. They move thousands to the port of entry so they can claim less illegal entries between the port of entries, but it's failed. Because November, December, we saw record amounts of crossings on the border, over 300,000 just in December. And people who say the border is not in crisis, I tell you this, in 2020, the total encounters on the southwest border is 646,000. This year, 3.2 million, 5 times what we saw during last year's Trump administration. Court orders are years out, but this administration is counting on it. You overflow the system. It'll push these court dates back 7, 8 years. And what's going to happen? Mark my word. When they finally get order removal 7 years down the road, they'll have a USC child. They'll have 2 USC children. They'll get phone calls from, the director of ICE will get phone calls from the Hill saying, why'd you remove that person with 2 USC kids? Well, he didn't have 2 USC kids when he entered the country legally. So now that he has 2 USC kids, he's immune from the law. The court order means nothing. So here's what I'm looking for. If for people who demand these people have a right to claim asylum, they have a right to due process. I agree. But due process doesn't mean anything if the final decision of the courts is not executed and people aren't removed. So if it takes 5 or 6 years, they still must be removed or the system means nothing.
All right, y'all. So I'm going to end this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, I went through this video to show you that Biden and this administration, because I believe because they lost the election, they're ramping up war stuff. And I believe that the selective service that they came up with about 5, 6 months ago is part of a plan. And like, again, why would you keep putting it across the media that you're giving hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine in the face of Russia? And Russia is seeing this, then you turn around and then you're giving Ukraine missiles, and then you give them authorization to use those missiles against Russia. Right? All you're doing is escalating a war, then getting other people involved, other nations involved. And next thing you know, we have a world war in our hands. And then the next thing you know, you want to send our children to war over something that we have nothing to do with. And those same children, those same families are struggling right here in the U.S. today. So they're struggling to survive here. Now we got to turn around and go fight a war that you escalated. You gave hundreds of billions of dollars to these other nations while Americans are suffering. You just gave $4 billion to the World Bank while Americans are suffering. You let all these illegals into our country while Americans are suffering, and these illegals are even making it worse on the suffering of Americans. So, again, this is the Truth Seeker Network. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace till next time. And I'm out.